Hey all, this is 012 Boku coming at you with another awesome movie review. And here's a bit for you. I'm almost done, at least, with the current animation children's films that I've been doing. Sort of what I like to call, like I said, the DreamWorks, Illumination, Disney line that I sort of have. And we are on my last two great gems that I like to call the two great gems, the ones that I like the most. And this one you'll agree with. When we get to the next one, don't know if you'll agree with, or maybe you guys won't agree with this one because maybe this movie was not your cup of tea. But I am talking about The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Oh yeah. You know, what I'm just going to start off with here, I wonder how many people remember this movie. Because in my opinion, The Hunchback of Notre Dame here is the one movie that they really seem to want to have people forget existed. Like, you know, because once again, Hunchback of Notre Dame was one of those films that people like to say this still took place in the dark Disney era. It still happened around this time. And I mean, this, to me, The Hunchback of Notre Dame is one of Disney's last greatest gems. And I say that because, for one, we don't get to really see a lot of 2D animated films anymore. We don't get to see, a lot of really good stories and writing in that. And now you could say, well, Zach, but you did other 2D or other movies too. You know, you showed us Dinosaur, you showed us Atlantis the Lost Empire, and, you know, a few others with that same sort of similar adventure, you know, action game sort of thing, or like fantasy. And I'm like, yeah, and I'll do the two I mentioned. Dinosaur, albeit an enjoyable movie, and a good one if you liked it. I like Dinosaur because it does have an okay, alright story. The story is alright. It's straightforward. It's basically a bigger telling in a weird way of Land Before Time, but I like it for the effects. The CGI and the characters were good. A lot of the cast they got for it was really good. A lot of Disney veterans, and, you know, Della Reese, Joan Plowright, D.B. Sweeney, Ossie Davis, Alfred Woodard, Max Casella, all those people. And then how they used real backgrounds to incorporate into the film, that was good. Atlantis the Lost Empire, great movie, great story, great action scenes, you know, really good stuff. You know, great characters, great cast. It's really good. But it is just right below this, because this film was the film that had it all, in my opinion. And hopefully I can do that justice for you guys. Because with The Hunchback of Notre Dame, as we know, it starts in Paris in like, I'm going to say, I believe, Renaissance times in Paris. You know, where we still had like Inquisition sort of thing going on, where the church was sort of heavily the power, but then you had court officials or, you know, religious officials corrupting power and, you know, thinking they were doing justice when they were really committing evil. And that's where Judge Count Frollo, like, I forget his whole name. They say it once in the movie, but basically Frollo. Judge Frollo starts us off in the film, wonderfully played by Tony Jay, as the film starts off with a family of gypsies trying to get safe passage into Paris by a ferryman who is brilliantly voiced by Jim Cummings. If anybody knows who Jim Cummings is, who is another big veteran Disney voice actor. But Tony Jay, who plays Count Frollo, spots them and instantly wants to have them arrested because they either have stolen goods, because who he's chasing after are gypsies. And it was a family of gypsies. And, you know, there were like a lot of gypsies around in, I believe, Paris. I think that is possibly historically accurate. I'm not sure. But basically, once again, they look at it as, you're a scourge, you do evil things, you're bad, you don't do good. So he arrests them for no reason. The one lady who had the child runs, basically tries to, like, save herself and her child because she knows, they're doomed by Frollo here if she doesn't get away. And, like, she goes to the church, the Notre Dame church, and she's trying to get sanctuary from it because that's still in a time where if you could get into a church, you could claim sanctuary, and court officials, police, people like that, apparently, for the most part, couldn't touch you. So she was trying to get in there, and while she was, Frollo still came up. He sort of tried to, I believe, tackle her, but she was trying to get away. So Frollo grabs a hold of the baby, and the swaddling thing, they're yanking back against each other like that. He yanks it from her. She falls back, and she hits the back of her head on the stone steps, obviously really hard because sadly, once again, spoilers for people who probably want to see this and don't have the spotting part ruined for you, but the mother gets killed. She gets killed by bouncing up the steps, and Frollo's holding the swaddling. He doesn't know it's a baby yet, but he hears the baby cry. And he tries to unwrap it to see what it is, and he just says, "Oh, a monster." He's completely taken aback at how this kid looks. And, he's about to throw the kid in a well to kill it, and all of a sudden, I believe, he's on here. David Ogden Stiers, who plays the Archdeacon, who is great in this role. If you guys know him as the governor from Pocahontas, or I mentioned Atlantis: The Lost Empire, he also played Mr. Harcourt from that. David Ogden Stiers has done a lot of good voiceover work, and I think came from the Royal Shakespeare Company, if I'm not mistaken. But David Ogden Stiers comes out as the Archdeacon, tells Frollo to stop. Frollo says he's sending this baby, to hell where it belongs, and the Archdeacon's like, well, no, you're not going to do another evil thing, because you already did enough evil killing this woman on the steps, and, Frollo's trying to justify every action for why the woman is dead, what he was doing, chasing after them, doing all these different type of things. And, he's like, well, you can lie to me, you can lie to your minions, you can lie to all the people of Paris, but the thing is, you're not going to trick the eyes of Notre Dame. Basically, you're not going to trick the eyes of heaven. And in a great visual, the stone statues of Notre Dame are drawn looking at him with the stain and thinking, you did a heinous thing. There's also a part where there is a devil near, the statues, and the devil's like got this grin on his face saying, hey, Frollo, you did a great job. It is like a really well drawn scene, very creepy too, but it fits well to the scene. And like Frollo asks the Archdeacon, what should I do? The Archdeacon's like, take care of it, raise the child as your own. And Frollo's like, well, okay, I gotta get out of this. So he quickly sets up and tells the Archdeacon, we're gonna have him in the church, he can help you in the church, he can do these things, but I'll still take care of him and be his guardian. So then, it goes into a great visual. Oh, and I should also say this too. The movie started out with a story where Paul Candle, who plays the storyteller Clopin, who really is like a narrator for this film, sort of like how the genie was, or that market guy was for Aladdin, similar type of thing to that. And also Beauty and the Beast too, if you want to look at it that way. Starts off telling us that part of the story, and he's sort of like the narrator, storyteller of the movie to put things in perspective, but he doesn't do it throughout the whole thing like some films do. And basically we have where it shows Quasimodo who is this child who is a hunchback and has a deformed face, ringing the bells of Notre Dame. And, he, like, basically stays up there because Frollo told him, you can't go out in public. People will not accept you. You do not look good. You're not good to society, so you can't do it. You will get hurt. I am your only protector and your only friend and father figure and blah, 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 blah. Basically, Frollo's making up a bunch of lies to Quasimodo. But Quasimodo here, who is voiced by Tom Hulce, who is a good actor in his own right and also a former opera singer as well, basically, wants to get outside the walls. He wants to enjoy people. He wants to go to this thing that's going on in Paris right now called the Festival of Fools, but he knows he can't go because Frollo will, like, be upset, or he'll, not be, taken well to the people of Paris, and they'll turn their backs on him, and, he'll just be beaten down, called a freak. All the, lovely, lovely things we hear about and see with these type of characters. And Quasimodo basically just dreams about it. But then his friends, who I guess are real animate objects and gargoyles of Notre Dame, the lights. Sorry, you see them there. I can't do it without turning it, but if you see there, the gargoyles, Laverne and Victor and Hugo, like the play on Victor and Hugo for the gargoyles, by the way, is to pay homage to the author of the Hunchback of Notre Dame story, Victor Hugo. So anyway, there's Victor, Hugo, and Laverne, and they're all voiced by Charles Kimbrough, Jason Alexander, and Mary Wickers, and they're basically his one friends, and they give him a lot of support and love, and they say, hey, if you want to go out into the world, you should. Who cares if Frollo dies? Just go out for a bit, you come back home. What's it going to hurt? They're always trying to encourage him to do what he wants to do, because they know he's been, they've known him for, I guess, 20 years since he's lived there since a baby, and, they're just trying to get him to live his life, to fit in, to feel happy, because they know Quasimodo's miserable, and Quasimodo is quite miserable. I mean, he wants to be free from there, but he always fears Frollo, and Frollo is always telling him, of all these ridiculous things. And then we cut to, I believe, both the other characters in this movie who are important. Captain Phoebus, who's just coming back from a war, and he's been chosen to be the captain of the guard in Paris by Frollo, and Phoebus is played brilliantly by Kevin Kline, and he's basically got this nice heart. He does what's right, wants to dispense justice, but doesn't want to do things in a immoral way. He doesn't always agree with Frollo's plan, and he notices that Frollo takes things a little too far, but he goes along with it because, hey, I'm a lawman, I need to obey the law. But you'll see in this movie how that moral fiber of his gets conflicted, and will he always go with Frollo's plan? But on the way into the city, Phoebus runs into Esmeralda, who is right here on Quasimodo there, and Esmeralda is voiced by Demi Moore, which this has probably got to be my favorite role for Demi Moore in, because, I mean, I don't know her from a lot of other films, but I gotta say, I really enjoy her in this film. And I've seen her in some other things, but they didn't have the same impact as Esmeralda in Hunchback of Notre Dame. And, she's basically just trying to make her way, because, all they're doing is just maybe asking for a little bit of pocket change, a little bit of help, and they really love entertaining the people, the crowds, and she is a gypsy along with her other friends, and they're just trying to have a lot of fun and give the city some life in the high uptight times of Judge Frollo and all the other persecution probably going on in Paris. And while she's doing her thing along with the other gypsies, The sentries come by, they try to stop it, they try to arrest her and take her money, but Phoebus comes in, does a little bit of fun banter with the soldiers, helps Esmeralda get away, and thus we keep continuing the story. Basically, Phoebus goes in and goes to Frollo at the Festival of Fools. Esmeralda's there being a big part of it. Clopan is there being a big part of it. And Quasimodo sneaks out. And he sneaks out wanting to go see the festival. And he's at it and he's enjoying it and he's hidden with a huge hood so nobody can really get a good look at him. But he just enjoys being there. And he's having a fun time and it all goes well until basically they're looking for Clopan and Esmeralda are looking for the ugliest man in Paris. And unfortunately, while they're looking at everybody in costume, Quasimodo gets put up on stage. And, Esmeralda tries to take his mask off like that, discovering that that's his actual face. Everybody gets almost scared and shocked. But then Clopan, in a way that my roommate yesterday, because I just watched this yesterday, my roommate yesterday said, with what Clopan said here was pretty rude. And he's like, folks in Paris, don't worry. You asked for the ugliest man in Paris? We're going to give him to you. He's right here. And, it really is messed up. I now believe as well in a way. But anyway, with that motion, people start having fun with Quasimodo. They start getting into him. They're all having fun. He's into it. Quasimodo's into it, having fun. But Frollo, however, is seeing all this on stage, and he's furious that Quasimodo's there. Like, he is really, really upset that Quasimodo is there, and all those different things. And, he's having fun, but then the guards who were trying to arrest Esmeralda earlier, they start throwing vegetables at Quasimodo, which, he reacts angrily and that shocks the crowd, but Quasimodo's trying to forget it, but all the other guards are throwing fruit and vegetables at him, and other people go in, and Quasimodo starts to get really angry, and he starts to try to defend himself. But then the townspeople tie him down, and they, sort of beat on him a little bit. They spin him around this, sort of cogwheel thing or whatever he was tied to, and, people are just mistreating him. Phoebus wants to stop it, but Frollo isn't going to allow it. He says there's a lesson that needs to be learned here. And, all the types of messed up things. And what happens is Esmeralda comes down. She actually saves Quasimodo. Frollo gets upset that Esmeralda intervened. And then Esmeralda calls out and says Frollo's the real fool for how she's treated the folks of Paris. For his beliefs, not being really true to himself. And she says, you're the real fool because, you're just a wicked person. Which then prompts Frollo to want Phoebus and his other men to arrest Esmeralda. There's a whole thing that ensues. And basically, the other gypsies and Clopan all work together and they sort of, stop Frollo from getting Esmeralda. Esmeralda is able to sneak off. She goes into the church, and what happens is Phoebus saw this, and Phoebus goes in there. He tries to get her out, but then the archdeacon intervenes again and says it's a sanctuary place. Frollo tries to come in and, wants Phoebus to drag her out of the church. Phoebus says we can't do that. She's claims sanctuary, and Frollo's like, yes, you can. Archdeacon reminds him what happened 20 years ago. Frollo backs off, but Esmeralda's trapped in there, which leads to a nice song of God Save the Outcast by Esmeralda, which really is a very good song for people who seem like are unwanted, but God loves everybody, and which he, in my opinion, he truly does, and it's a really nice scene. But thus, that also prompts Esmeralda to see Quasimodo, and they sort of form a friendship. Possibly a love interest. Won't divulge into it so far because this is where we're almost near the end of the review. And it gets to the point where Esmeralda needs to get away, but she can't because Frollo posted guards outside the entire cathedral, and she can't get away, but Quasimodo helps her, and he like knows how to sneak around the church. You know, she's able to get away, and what happens is she gets away. She's gonna go hide at the Court of Miracles. It's a place where all the gypsies and I guess all the what Frollo considers to be the lowlifes hide from Frodo. I was gonna say Frodo again. From Frollo and his persecution, and basically we get into another plot point that was a area that Frollo's been looking for over 20 years, and he's finally, he wants to find it. But not only that, there's a whole bunch of other things which I'll get in here too soon, but that's basically where it leads. And then, you know, you sort of have Phoebus and Quasimodo come together. Frollo admonishes Quasimodo, but then it's like, wait, if Quasimodo befriends the gypsies, I can maybe find the Court of Miracles and also find this woman who mocked me. And there's a whole thing that ensues with that. And, you know, basically just goes into the movie, and there's all these sort of dark tones, good religious tones. And it's just a really good film, a really great voice cast, and just great stuff from all the characters. Once again, I'm going to say, like, one of the best things of this film is Tony Jay as Frollo. He really plays a wicked court official who really thinks he's doing God's work, but it's basically just the opposite of that. He really seems devilish and wicked. There's even a point at the end of the film where you get to the climax where he's about to get ready, once again, spoilers for anybody who wants to see this. Near the end of the film, he's trying to kill Quasimodo and Esmeralda, and he raises his sword up against his head, and he's like, I shall smite the wicked into the fiery pit. And he looks like this, but he's got like all these like red underlines on his face, like his teeth are yellow. He looks demonic. And it's a fitting thing because he really is like the devil. He's a very evil person. And I mean, Tony Jay just played that so well in this film. And it's probably one of his last really good roles that he did. I mean, I know he did other things after that, but Hunchback of Notre Dame really was one of his best roles, I think, in my mind, that he did. Because he's done a lot of other good movies. And once again, Tony Jay comes from, I think, the Royal Shakespeare Company as well, and also opera too. So Tony Jay is really gifted on both ends of that too. And there's a song in keeping with that, because I really like Tony Jay's character in this film, where Frollo actually, when Esmeralda insults him, there's a part where he's in his apartments at night and he's judging himself by his fire, which he calls the song Hellfire that he sings, like, you know, because he's wondering, he's being tempted, and he realizes he's starting to fall for Esmeralda. So it's really creepy seeing this old guy developing these weird feelings for Esmeralda. But basically, the song goes where these red hooded figures come up. There's also shadows on the wall sort of watching him and, you know, like accusing him. And, you know, it's sort of a real creepy scene, but it is an awesome scene at the same time, where it's like, look, in many ways, I didn't damn myself. She did this to me. The gypsies are doing this to me. I'm guiltless. I am not the one who's at fault. They are. And basically she says, you know, I'm not going to be the one to be at fault for this, but here's the thing. You know, you either die for what you've done to me, or you recant and say you will be mine, or you're dead. But basically, as the song goes, you know, she'll either choose me or pyre, choose me or you shall burn. And it's just like, whoa, Frollo's really gone to crazy town. And it's just great stuff. And once again, just great characters. Tom Hulce plays a great Quasimodo. Great singing voice for himself too. You know, great moments. You know, really good stuff. You know, he just really brings sort of the tortured but yet kindness to the character of Quasimodo. And of course, the three gargoyles, Laverne, Victor and Hugo are real fun, of course. And the funny thing is that I'll put that on the side of this movie is a lot of people found Jason Alexander to be annoying. I didn't. I liked him in this movie. I enjoyed him, but I know from this movie being in existence, a lot of people disliked. I think he was Hugo. A lot of people disliked Hugo because they thought Jason Alexander was annoying, and I'm like, I didn't think it was annoying. I thought he was great. And overall, that's another thing I could get to as well in this movie is the music. Done by Alan Milken, I think his name is again. Another great score, a lot of great written songs by him. And I mean, when he did the score for the movie, the fact he uses Latin, like church type scores, holy themes, and all these great things, it fits well with this movie. It makes the movie a lot more epic and great into scope. And sorry, I needed to breathe and swallow. This is how excited I'm getting telling you guys about this. But the last thing I can say is that if there's one thing you can also take away from this movie besides the plot, characters, and music, is the visuals. How they drew this movie, how they did the movie, how the characters look is just, once again, epic in scope. It really paints and shows Paris in an awesome light. It shows a darkness in this movie that's really good. It also shows a lot of light and warmth. I mean, everything is so huge, vivid. You basically get a giant scope of Paris in this area. And also the way when they drew Notre Dame. Notre Dame is lovely. Notre Dame looks awesome and really exceptional. And you really see the inside of the church a lot. A lot of good things. I mean, it is just epic in scope is one of the final things that I could say. So basically, what I'm going to say with my final review, and you guys probably knew this was coming just by how I've ranted about this movie, but I give this movie a 10 out of 10. A perfect Disney film. A perfect film where it takes ultimately a sort of Grimm's fairy tale story written by Victor Hugo, which the very true thing is the book is a lot more darker. Like, a lot of bad things happen to Esmeralda. I think my roommate said Phoebus is more of a jerk. And Frollo is actually a part of the church. He's not just a court official. He literally is a part of the church. And like he was telling me yesterday, Disney probably did not want to deal with that and have a lot of religious, political blowback on their heads. And but either way, it still meant the same thing. And Frollo was basically kept the way he was from the book for the most part, from what I've heard. And obviously, once again, this film is it's fantastic. I mean, I love it. I love everything about it. And basically, what I'll say within final saying is, what do you guys think? Have you guys, for one, seen this movie? Have you seen it? And I have to say, if you've not seen Hunchback of Notre Dame, put it on your list. It has to be on your list of Disney movies to see because it is that good. Like, also as well, like, Black Cauldron or all the other dark Disney films, or Something Wicked This Way Comes, or Into the Woods. A lot of the other dark Disney films that were good, like, Sleeping Beauty is pretty dark for its Disney days. And same thing with Snow White and all things. This is back at a time where, in my opinion, Disney was way more bold to do this stuff, and the PC crap didn't start yet. I hate to say it like that, but that type of stuff has ruined movies nowadays because we got to be careful about who to offend and who that. And like, once again, if I get a lot of stuff for saying that in this, it's like, sorry guys, I understand, but if you can't do certain things and show maybe both sides of it, or know what you're trying to get at, and you don't come out and you explain things to people, then you're obviously not wanting to deal with it, but yet at the same time, you're really missing great scope of film and or possibly truth. But that's just me. So once again, just let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment, what do you think of this film and everything else, and I will get back to you guys hopefully sometime soon with the next movie review. So just bear with me until then. You guys have a good day.